All right, so this is going to be part two of my Windows 98 repack build. And this is the new addition to the card. I just got this new old stock SATA controller that does have drivers for Windows 98. So this is what I'm going to put in here to replace all the IDE PATA stuff. And this is a sign of the good old times. And I want to thank Greg Smith from Treasure Coast Recycling for giving me this. He's got these new old stock. But back in the day when we bought peripherals, we got paper manuals, and then we got plastic discs, right? So there's a 3.5-inch floppy driver disc, and there's a CD-ROM driver disc, and some other type of get-to-know-me doohickey. And this is the SATA card. So it's basically a PCI bus SATA card that has 4 SATA connectors on there. And my goal will be to make my Windows 98 box use this SATA card. And I'm going to have a SATA hard drive or 2 and a SATA optical drive. And that'll make the wire management inside the case a little bit more aesthetically pleasing too, because I won't have to deal with those big fat bundled ribbon cables, which are very difficult to manage. And not to mention the performance should be a little bit better too. So stay tuned for the next installment of As the 98 Machine Turns, where we try to upgrade it to include SATA. And then my goal is going to be that ultimately I'm probably going to want to add a second solid state drive and install Windows XP in a dual boot thing where I can boot one hard drive into 98 and another hard drive into XP, because the actual computer itself is from the early to mid 2000s, so it's more than capable of running the XP operating system as well. So that'll be kind of a nice double whammy. So stay tuned, folks. All right, this is build version 2 or 2.0 of my rebuild repack of the Windows 98 box, and there's a few things I've done here thanks to a couple new pieces of hardware. Number one, the graphics card. Graphics card is no longer the Voodoo 3. This is now an NVIDIA Geforce, I think it's a 440 MX. So it's a better graphics card. It can support 32-bit color, AGP texture, acceleration, a few things like that. So overall, better card. I've added a SATA controller. And this SATA controller now is giving me direct SATA connection to the solid state hard drive in here. So you can see the solid state hard drive here. It's got the SATA cable. SATA cable is routing underneath the motherboard, so it's not going across the case. And unfortunately, I tried to get a SATA hard drive, or excuse me, a SATA optical drive working here. And I could get the drive to be recognized at a hardware level by Windows 98. But the minute I tried to access that drive by double-clicking it to browse its contents, Windows would always freeze and crash. So I've had to go back to using an IDE drive, but I've just got a single cable, and I've tried to get that cable out of the way so it's not really covering anything. It's not restricting any airflow in the case. The other challenge of using a SATA optical drive is it doesn't have the analog audio cable to go to the sound card, so I wouldn't be able to capture CD audio through the computer if I had gone SATA. It would have been nicer, it would have been cleaner from a wiring perspective and a better technology, but how often are we going to use this optical drive? But it's there, and that's what it looks like on the inside. In just a second here, we'll fire it up and we'll see what it looks like once Windows is running. Should also point out one added benefit of having the NVIDIA graphics card is that it actually has a full-on DVI digital output. So I'm no longer required to use an older VGA monitor to view the computer. This looks like this might be S-Video too. So now what I'm doing is I'm using the good old-fashioned DVI to HDMI converter, and I can directly plug this thing into a modern TV via HDMI. I just won't get audio, but I get a really clear, clean picture. So when I fire this thing up now, you're going to see it over HDMI. All right, so here we see the final proof of the pudding here. You can see that we have my C drive, which is my basically 250 gigabyte Samsung solid state drive. You can see that I have my D drive, which is the IDE old PATA PATA drive. It is currently playing CD audio from that drive. We can see that I have my IDE controller drivers working properly and the SATA controller, which is basically showing up like a SCSI controller. And that's fine, whatever you want to call it. It's what's driving that SATA hard drive. And technically I could connect up to 4 at this point. I don't have enough mounting spots for 4, but I was thinking about adding a second hard drive and installing XP in a dual boot, but that's a project for another day. But at this point right now, this 98 box is pretty damn good. Yeah, so this is the video driver right here too. So this is an NVIDIA Geforce MX 440, which is actually a much better graphics card than the Voodoo 3000 that I had in there, but I did that one for kind of nostalgia's sake. And yeah, so it's a rocking system. Not that the inside of the case matters, but it's close to showpiece as far as how it looks inside. I might actually end up changing out the side panel for a clear window to see all the beauty work inside. So not a bad little setup. And this is now being displayed on a 40-inch Samsung 4K ultra high definition television, which, as everyone knows, is exactly the way we had it back in the days of Windows 98. So there you have it. This is the round 2 of the ultimate Windows 98 gaming PC rebuild, repack by SATA. Take care.